Dare to Dream is not a program, but it is a process. It is a journey. It is our time to examine where Trinity has been, where Trinity is, and where Trinity is going. In order to understand a little bit about why we're going through this process, this slide shows just a very brief history looking at where Trinity was last year and where Trinity is currently. You will notice that basically from a statistical standpoint, Trinity has not gone up nor has it gone down. What the experts would say is that Trinity is flat. I would say that probably what we've done is that these numbers indicate that we have stopped a decline and that we just simply need to be prepared to begin moving forward. What are some of the strengths of Trinity? Well, if you stop and think about it, these 7 words, diversity, exceptional class, family feeling, welcoming, accepting, flexible, connections, growing community, all describe really who Trinity is. And you'll see in this that Trinity has always been a church that has been very open. It's been welcoming. It's been a church that I think in a lot of ways has been colorblind. Is one of the first churches in the Lexington area to accept not only people of other races, but also mixed marriages. It's one of the first churches to accept adults who, what we now call exceptional adults. And it also recognizes that these people need to be accepted and that the church needs to have this sense that everybody is part of the family of God. But there are areas that we need to improve on. Certainly any Sunday morning or Wednesday, you look around and see that the average age of the congregation is aging. The facilities are also in need of upkeep and maintenance, and that cost continues to rise. But we also have to consider our location because we are at the backside of a road and we have no access really to a major road. Our staff, because we are small in the sense that we only have a couple full-time people, and do we need a larger staff or do we need maybe one more full-time person? Do we have the right facilities for our youth and children that would invite growth? And maybe there's a feeling of apathy that things are just okay, and I think there's also that sense in which people may not know exactly where the church needs to go. If we look at some other challenges before us, we see that we're in a changing community. The city of Lexington is growing. We're also in what's called the post-Christian era, which means, is the church relevant? It used to be that people would move into a community and they would immediately look for the nearest grocery store, the nearest school, the nearest church. Now people move in and they look for the nearest school, they look for the nearest grocery store, they look for the nearest recreation facility, they look for, who's going to provide their internet. Church is somewhere down that list. It's not, I'm not even sure it's in the top 10 anymore. We also have to consider the use of technology because no longer are people off on Sundays. Now we have so many people who have to work on Sundays who can't make it to church. How do we reach them? How do we stream our worship services so that maybe later in the week they can watch it? But right now we don't have the capability of doing that. And also the means and methods of reaching the community. It used to be that you could go and knock on somebody's door and invite them to church, but people aren't necessarily open to that anymore. So I want us to consider the fact that challenges also are just ways that we need to see opportunities. Now, what is Dare to Dream? It is it is not a program. It is a process. It is a journey. And you'll notice from these 4 points right here that it is a journey in which we will look at ourselves as a congregation. We're going to also discover who God desires us to be as individual Christians and who God desires this church to be. And it will be a journey to help us to have a fresh vision that will guide us into the future. Now, this is not something that can be done just simply because we desire to do it. As the pioneers of the during the Western expansion, wanted to go into the undiscovered countries of our West. They needed someone who had been there before, someone who had kind of traveled these lands and understood the paths. We called them trailblazers. And something that we have to recognize is that, in order to do this, there's a cost. It's not a cost in which we need to see as simply just paying somebody, but it's an investment into the future. And as we look at this, I need to change the total cost from $4,200 to actually $4,300. And it's not something we have to pay up front. We will pay half of it, $2,150, at the end of this year, or really kind of towards the end of our fiscal year. And the nice thing about this is that it's we'll be able to budget the other half of the cost into the next fiscal year. But I want us to understand that this is not $4,200 of expense. It's not $4,200, but $4,300, not in expense, but it's a $4,300 investment into our future. And in many ways, we can't afford not to do this. Now, who are we going to be paying this money to? Well, kind of our trailblazer is Dr. Steve Spangler. I've known Steve for many years. I first met Steve when he worked with a former church to help them go through this very same process. You'll notice that Steve is a pastor, and his church allows him to continue to do this because they understand the importance of what he is doing. Steve, before he went to Temple Baptist in Wilmington, was also the vice president of advancement at Bluefield College in Bluefield, Virginia. But he also served as vice president for 2 national church consulting firms. I knew him when he was at Cargill and Associates. And he continues to do this through his own company that he works with his daughter. And Steve is also an author, a book that he wrote that I think is a wonderful little book, which is called Simply Jesus. Steve also contributes to a local paper, magazine there in the Wilmington area. He's also written some songs. Steve is a very dynamic person, but a person who has a strong passion to see churches grow, a passion for helping them to understand how they can be a part of God's kingdom. There's the saying that comes from Experiencing God by Dr. Henry Blackaby, in which Dr. Blackaby says we need to find where God is working and join him there. And this is what Steve wants to help us do, is to find where God is working in our community and then to help us to gain a vision of how we can join God right there and become a very active part of that work. I think you will find that this process will challenge us, but with every challenge is an opportunity. It will cause us to do a lot of looking inward of who we are, not only as Christians, but as members of Trinity. And I think that you will find that through this year, it will be a time that Trinity will grow. It will be a time that Trinity will be strengthened. I'm excited about this journey. I'm excited that the church has agreed to do this. And I look forward to making this journey with you. You will find Steve to be just a very personable person, someone who is eager to help us, and someone who is very much excited about what Trinity can do here in the Lexington community. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me to come by and talk with me about it, and you'll be hearing more about when the journey begins very soon. Have a blessed day.